Some buyers are getting fooled. Watch this video. I'll tell you what to look for. What's up, guys? This is Brad. So I have seen multiple instances over the past several months of some issues being purchased, primarily on eBay, of Sports Illustrated, and they are incorrectly labeled by CGC. They are basically not noted as subscription issues, and so buyers are purchasing them thinking that they are newsstands when in fact they are not. And so this video is just going to be a word to the wise. I'm going to show you a few examples of some of these specific slabs that have not been properly labeled, and I want to give you kind of the the weapons and the knowledge to be on the lookout for this yourself, so that you don't fall into the trap of buying a inaccurately labeled slab. All right, here we go. Very first one right here. So this is an example of CGC not properly labeling a graded magazine as a subscription. So as you can see here, this is Mike Tyson. This is his first cover, and very clearly has a subscription label. This is a pretty obvious example of a subscription right down here. And what you can see up here is there is no notation to denote it as a subscription. And so what CGC will typically do is, if it is a subscription, they will have a little note right along this part of the slab right here that says subscription edition. If it's a newsstand, then they typically won't put anything extra. It would look exactly like this one. You know, this one does not say anything about it being a subscription edition. And so therefore, you would assume, if you only looked at the label, that this is a newsstand. And in fact, this issue, this specific 9.6 Mike Tyson, got initially put into the newsstand pop reports within CGC's census. And so it was clearly just a mistake by the grader, didn't add that on the label. Now, thankfully, this one was corrected. I know that a couple collectors sent CGC an email to notify them of the error, because this is a pretty big one. I mean, this is a highly collectible cover, and there is one 9.8 in newsstand, and then this would have been slotted in as the second highest newsstand at a 9.6, and a 9.6 newsstand of this copy would be worth multiple thousands of dollars, whereas a subscription is going to be less than that. So this was a pretty big mistake, but they fixed it. This was an obvious one. Probably not a lot of buyers would have been duped by this. They would have clearly seen the label. But let's move on and check out some instances that are not quite so obvious. So here we go. This is an example where they actually did label it correctly, because you can see they labeled it somewhat correctly. Okay, they partly did the job. So as you can see right here, it does not say subscription edition, which it usually will if it's a subscription. And you can see there's no clear label right away, but if you look closely down here, you've got the obvious evidence of where a mailing label was. You got the two long glue strips going along, and that's the number one sign to look for when you're spotting a subscription issue that has had the label removed. And just in case you're not aware, yes, a subscription issue with the label removed is still considered a subscription, and it is almost impossible to remove one of these Sports Illustrated mailing labels so well that it's not detectable, because typically you're either going to have some glue residue, you're going to have some color loss, you're going to have some paper tear, you're going to have one or any combination of those three. Very rare that that label is removed so cleanly that it looks the exact same as a newsstand, especially underneath CGC's black lights and whatever tools that they use to grade. So anyway, obvious subscription label removed. Did not note it. Now, they did at least write here, subscription label removed. And I should have said that on the last slide too. They will write subscription label removed, and they'll put it right here, right underneath like the date in kind of smaller font, just to note that, a label has been removed, but then they'll still typically put subscription edition right here. So it's like they did half the job. They noted it was removed. They did not note it as a subscription, and this was initially put in the newsstand pop reports as well. Once again, we as collectors notified CGC and they fixed it. All right. This one also Not super deceitful because you can still see pretty clearly, and it does at least say the label was removed. This was kind of a minor oversight here. Moving on. How about this one? This is Pele. This is from 1975. Pele's first and only Sports Illustrated cover, highly collectible. And this one has no notation whatsoever about it being a subscription edition, no notation about a label being removed, was included in the newsstand pop reports. Here's the problem. This is a subscription label removed. I know that on your screen, probably a little bit difficult to tell, but when you zoom in on this listing and on these photos that were within eBay, you could very clearly see the glue strips going horizontal. You can see it a little bit, but it's hard to see without zooming in. But this was very clearly a label removed subscription copy, and it was advertised as a newsstand. It sold for $399 on eBay back on September 4th, 2023. So this is a classic example of how a purchaser, if they're not being ultra um, observant, they can definitely get duped because all signs indicate that this is indeed a newsstand copy. It is only whenever you actually look closely at the photos that you see, oh shoot, there was a label removed and CGC missed it. And unfortunately, as it turns out, that might happen more often than you think. Here is a zoomed in picture that can maybe help you see a little bit better where those glue strips were. So this is one that was removed very well. So it's very faint, but when you compare this to a newsstand, you can see that this, there is not the discoloration here on this vertical strip like you can see on this one. There is and also, another tidbit here that can be helpful is a lot of times when Sports Illustrated was sending out these subscriptions, the mailing labels will sometimes be all over the place. Sometimes you'll see a mailing label down here. Probably most of the time it's right here. Sometimes you see them here. Sometimes you see them here. Heck, there's even been a few times I've seen them up here. But what you will often notice is it's usually consistent. It's usually largely consistent with the same issue. So for example, this 1975 Pele issue, most of the subscription copies that you're going to find are going to have the label right here in this corner going vertically, just like these two. Now, that's not 100% because I think that it differs depending on like if it was sent to Canada or some of the different geographic regions, but most of them you're going to find are right here. And so that gives you an idea as a collector of where to look for where that glue strip might be. All right, so moving on. Wayne Gretzky. This issue is a problem. Okay, when it comes to newsstands and subscriptions, this is probably the most difficult issue I have seen when it comes to determining if it's a newsstand or subscription, and CGC has been fooled multiple times. All right, so you can see there I've got listed up in the top. I have personally purchased 3 raw Wayne Gretzky first covers over the past 2 years. After receiving them, I discovered that all 3 were actually label removed. They were not newsstand. And that was not something I could detect just from the photos. And here's the reason why. The Wayne Gretzky subscription label usually goes right in this area right here, going horizontally, going left to right. And because of the location of that label and where the glue strips are, you've got Gretzky's jersey here with a change in color from blue to white. You got this blue trim on the glove. You've got the orange glove. You've got the hockey stick with the white tape. Right here is usually where that top glue strip is going, and then the bottom one's usually right here. Because there's all this color change and some of it's just it's the glue is often really, really hard to see whenever you have a label that's been removed well. And so I'm really giving you a warning on these Wayne Gretzky first covers. Not only have I personally purchased 3 that, as I said, turned out to be newsstand or turned out to be subscriptions once I got them in my hand, I had a Wayne Gretzky first cover that a customer sent to me. I was doing some pressing for. And they felt that I think it was in like a 6.5 slab. They felt like there was a good chance I could bump it up, and I agreed. I felt like I could bump it up by, doing some cleaning and pressing. So I cracked that 6.5 newsstand out of its slab. Once I got that magazine free, I discovered that it had been a label removed that CGC had missed and they had not properly labeled. And sure enough, after I cleaned it, we pressed it, I sent it back in. It did get a higher grade, by the way, so we were successful there, but it came back as a subscription. You have to be very careful on these Wayne Gretzky first covers. Here's an example. This top is this is an example of a newsstand. Okay, you can see the white jersey here. That's a good place to look. The color's pretty consistent. There is a little wrinkle here in the jersey, so this left side is a little darker from the shadow, and then the white side, you can even see some of the, like air perforated holes there. But the white trim of the glove is clean. There's no discoloration here. This is a newsstand. But then here is a label removed. And, zoomed in, you can definitely see this, but I'm telling you, whenever you're just looking at the magazine as a whole, on some of these photos that get put on eBay, these are really hard to detect sometimes. That's why you got to look really closely at the location of where a label once existed. And so once again, you can just clearly see this glue line coming here over the white of the jersey. And you can see why, look, like you can barely even see it right here. It's really hard to detect whenever you're looking from far away. Here is a 7.0 Wayne Gretzky first cover that's currently for sale on eBay. I almost bought this. It was listed as 900. It was listed as a buy it now for 999. It had to make an offer. I think since then the seller has lowered the price a little bit. Last I checked several days ago, it was still available on eBay. I think maybe for 699 or 799, something like that. Of course, this video is probably not going to get posted for another month or two after I record this, so it may not still be available by the time this video comes out, but this is a 7.0 advertised as a newsstand. CGC has it labeled as a newsstand because once again, there's no subscription edition. It doesn't say subscription label removed. Now, I do want to make one clarification. I mentioned earlier how if it's a subscription, they'll notate that here. If it's a newsstand, they usually don't put anything. In the very, very, very early years of CGC doing Sports Illustrated magazines, I think they only did this for the first year or two, so that's 2009, 2010. They did mark newsstand edition right here. So you will see a very, very small percentage of newsstand slabs will sometimes say newsstand. So make sure that if you see some text here, you actually zoom in and look at what it says. Make sure that, you see if it says subscription or newsstand, because there are a few that will actually say newsstand. Most of them do not, because CGC does not do that anymore. But anyway, this specific 7.0, clearly graded and labeled and put in the census by CGC as a newsstand. However, look down here. If you look closely inside that label, this is, or inside that slab, this is a label removed because there's the classic evidence right there, right over the white of the jersey. You can see the discoloration where that glue residue was. So hard to see over here on this right side, but that white part of the jersey is often your best bet on where you can see it. I made an offer, actually made a really fair offer on trying to buy this whenever I thought it was a newsstand. The seller said no, and thank the Lord, I dodged a bullet because right after that is when I looked closer. I should have done my due diligence before I made the offer, but after my offer was declined, I looked closer, and that's when I saw it was actually a label removed. So I almost fell trapped at this as well. You have to be very, very careful. Here's another example that I found. I have found multiple graded Wayne Gretzky's that CGC missed. Okay, like I said, obviously this 7.0 is an example. The one that I cracked for my friend was an example. And then here's an 8.5. This one actually sold as a newsstand on December 19th, 2023 on eBay. Now it did sell alongside with a 9.8 Wayne Gretzky Beckett. That Gretzky Beckett at a 9.8 typically sells for about, $150 or $200. So if you take that in consideration, then let's just say that someone was paying $3,000 for this 8.5 Gretzky first cover. Well, here's the problem, people. Once again, it is not labeled or notated to be a subscription. It's clearly, determined to be a newsstand. But if you look really closely, I don't know how well you can see it on the screen you're looking at right now, but you can see the discoloration of the glue residue right here. This is another label removed that CGC missed, and someone bought this thing for $3,000. You have to watch out. And so I wonder, there's 90 newsstands currently graded of Gretzky's first cover, which is actually decently high number for, 1981. I wonder how many of those are label removed. I would be willing to bet that of those 90, at least 10 of, I mean, heck, I just found three. I've already found three that for sure were label removed that CGC missed. I mean, I wonder if 10 or so of those that are graded as newsstands are actually label removed. You have to be really careful, especially watch out for that Gretzky. And lastly, here's one final example. This was one that just popped up recently. Michael Jordan, A Star is Born, probably the hottest cover out there. You just see tons and tons of these selling right now. Of course, the 9.8 sold for $126,000 last year, which is the all-time record. People love this Michael Jordan, A Star is Born, first pro cover. And this one was not labeled as a subscription. Marked in the census as a newsstand, 6.0, and lo and behold, you can see it a little bit here, but here's the zoomed in image. This was a label removed. You can see it very clearly going across this defender's jersey and going across Michael's knee brace. You can even see a little bit of the lower glue strip residue. Very clearly or I'm sorry, this is the lower strip. This is the upper strip right here. Very clearly a label removed. And I know of two people who bought this magazine, I believe for like $399 as a buy it now, something like that. They were thinking they were getting a steal because once again, this is a majorly collectible issue. I think it came in at number 4 on my all-time most collectible list. They were thinking they were getting a steal with a 6.0 newsstand, only to immediately realize after the purchase that it was a subscription label removed that CGC missed. Now, thankfully, they got their money back. They were able to be refunded. And the seller of this slab finally, after a couple sales that didn't actually go through, relisted the item and put in the title, not a newsstand. So credit to that seller. Even though CGC missed it, he now has it advertised correctly. So that is it. I just want everyone to be aware. This does happen. CGC can and does make mistakes. Sometimes the label removed is difficult to see. Some of these, it's really not that difficult, and you wonder how the heck CGC missed it. But if you are a buyer and you are purchasing a slabbed issue, don't go off of the label alone. You need to check the label, and you need to really study the magazine itself inside the slab as closely as you can. And if you see an obvious sign of glue residue, paper tear, color loss, where a label obviously was, then that means that it's a subscription issue that CGC missed. So buyers beware. Heads up for everyone out there. I want you to be equipped to make smart purchases. And that's all I got for you. So thanks for watching. If you have not yet, please subscribe. I appreciate likes and comments. And until the next video, I will see you next time.